Welcome to the draft profile for Mykel Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. Just Georgia pumping out NFL talent every single year. Don't bind them. Look, this is going to be an interesting player. I will say off the jump, huge fan of the person. Huge fan of the player. Just watching some interviews, I went down a rabbit hole of just watching some of his older interviews, some of the combine interviews, and he just seems like a real genuine, lunch pail type of guy. He's clearly taking this seriously. He's clearly taking it as a job, as a profession, the way he probably should. And look, there are elements of his game that we're going to have to dive into. Let's go ahead and get into it, all right? We're talking about a guy who is 6'5", 260 pounds, and had 34.5-inch arms, so the frame is absolutely awesome. We look at the skill chart here for you guys. There's some highs and lows to this skill chart. This is one of the more wild skill charts that I've had on this channel. It does kind of speak to who he is. So first of all, this is a traits guy, all right? And it's raw. Technique isn't there. Hand usage isn't there. It's just raw. He can play far too upright at times. He can kind of look even stiff at times, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he has some serious explosiveness, all right? Edges aren't always asked to be shot out of the cannon explosive at Georgia. You kind of have to take his game with a little bit of a grain of salt because he's just asked to do more on the defensive line than most other college programs are asked their edge rushers to do, right? So we look at Mykel Williams and his burst and first step, and I couldn't take that on every play basis, but when he was asked to really open up and explode, he did that, and he did it at a really high level. So we love that. The athleticism speaks for itself. He's incredibly explosive, incredibly athletic, but you're taking shot here. You're taking a shot on a guy who is not a complete player, didn't have a ton of just sacks based on his ability to turn the corner and get to the quarterback in college. A lot of it was stunts. He doesn't really have much of a plan after his initial move doesn't work, and really even his initial move, it kind of didn't seem like he had anything that he didn't have a large bag of tricks. He didn't really have anything that he went towards. It was just a lot of speed to power stuff and, definitely some swim move stuff that he would try here and there. But really, when a tackle got hands on him, the play was over. He didn't generate a ton of pressure after the tackle was able to engage with Mykel Williams. You just didn't see a lot of that. Now, obviously, you get him in space. You create some circumstances where he's able to just run and shoot a little bit. Of course, I mean, he's an athlete. He's going to be able to make some plays from that perspective. That doesn't really go very far for me, though, because everybody's an athlete in the NFL. That's scheme. That's not player, all right? We're not drafting a guy based on the scheme he played in. We're drafting a player based on what he can do for you in your scheme. But with that said, this is a guy who plays the run pretty well. I think he definitely has the strength of the point of attack to hold up blocks, set the edge, all these things. He's going to be a 3-down defensive end, all right? He can do that. He can be an edge rusher as well. The one thing that I haven't talked about, and the one thing that probably gives me the most pause about Mykel Williams, the one thing that's like, okay, where does this go from here, was the flexibility and bend. I just didn't see it. I didn't see enough of it. He felt very upright. He felt very stiff. I know I already mentioned that, but I didn't see the ankle flexion. I didn't see his ability to dip under tackles. You just didn't see it. Now, where does that go? Can he develop that? I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't know how much of that had to do with technique and how much of that had to do with it's just not part of his makeup and physical ability. I have questions there. And there's definitely, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that's something he can develop, or is this kind of it for him as far as that particular skill set? He'd still be a good player in the NFL, but it would limit his ultimate, high-end upside, I would say. He's still a long and explosive athlete, so he's still going to be able to win at the NFL level, even if that isn't a high-end skill set for him, but it's definitely worth mentioning for sure. Other things that I want to talk about, his motor, really, really good. I mean, this dude kind of unmatched as far as the way he played the position. I really, really enjoyed his ferociousness, his explosiveness off the line, and the way that he fought. His hand usage is pretty inconsistent. I gave it a 3.8 because I do think there's a little bit there. There was kind of growth. There's development that you could kind of tell had been happening, but it was inconsistent. And between phases, I felt like it was late or early at points. It was all over the place. So we got to kind of take that for what it is. But again, that does just speak to the larger picture of who this guy is as a whole. He's not a finished product. This is a traits pick, all right? A team's going to take this guy based on the physical abilities that he has, not based on the football player he was in 2024. So where does that leave us? Where do we think a guy like that can get drafted? For me, I have a hard time thinking he falls outside of the first round. I do. I think the upside's there. I mentioned at the top of this video, I love the person. I believe in the guy. Now, this is just based off interviews. Those interviews are obviously scripted to an extent as far as, he's been taught what to say, how to sound, all these things. I get it, but I do feel like you can read between the lines between guys that are reading from a script inside their head and speaking, and guys that are speaking honestly and genuinely about the way they view their game, their career, their profession, right? So maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that he's going to be a worker. I believe he's going to be a guy that can get better in the NFL. And to me, that's a guy, the Bills late in the first, the Chiefs late in the first, like that's the range that I'm thinking for Mykel Williams. I do think he's going to fall because, how can the Bengals take this dude? I'm just thinking of teams that need edge rusher. You need a guy to play defensive end. Now, I think he can be a 3-down defensive end in the NFL. He can develop into a superstar, borderline sack leader type of guy. So, he has all the upside in the world. I'm not saying he's not worth that pick. The Bengals pick 18, something like that, wherever it is, middle of the draft. But if you're the Bengals, you need a guy who's going to produce. You need a higher floor than what this guy brings you. All right. So I'm kind of thinking of teams they can afford to wait a year maybe. And I don't know. I don't see a lot of the teams that might value him being willing to take the time, right? And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe, again, Seahawks could use it. I mean, there's a lot of teams right there in the middle. Arizona Cardinals could use it. Dolphins have gone to the well on defensive edge and defensive end a lot in the first round lately, but they've had a lot of injuries there as well. They could use it. Cowboys, damn near any team can use this type of skill set and this type of upside. But it's just tough for me to imagine those teams right in the middle, right on the edge. They think they're close to being a playoff Super Bowl contending team. I imagine most of those organizations feel like they're a couple pieces away. Do you take the shot? I'm not saying you don't. I'm just asking the question. I'm positing the theory that maybe he falls a little bit farther than that. I've said this actually about a couple of players, so I could just be wrong in general. But how does he fall past the Eagles? I don't know. The Eagles would love this dude. They take a shot on this dude. They could sit him for 2 years, let him grow as a player behind some of the best edge rushers in the league. The first round's going to be wild because there's just so many guys that are kind of the same tier of player with wildly different skill sets, and what teams value, it's going to be absolutely insane. So I can't wait to see where Mykel Williams goes. I'm rooting for this dude. Huge fan of his upside. And hey, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff really means a lot to me. Comments really, really help the algorithm. So show some love in the comments, show some hate in the comments, whatever you got for me. It really means a lot to me if you comment on this and try and spread this video out as far as we can get it. Trying to grow this thing, trying to be a draft channel 24/7, 365 days a year. And this is my time, man. Trying to get out as many draft profiles as I can. This is another one. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.